Hi, this is Jason Fielder with the Daily Forex Report for September 11th. I'm looking at this the U.S. Japanese yen pair today. We have a market that moved lower today. It did pull back. I mean, it moved much lower, but it did pull back substantially prior to the close. But as you can see, this session so far is just moved lower. Now, I am looking for this pair to be between 108.14 and on the lower side, on the lower side, as low as 105.76. So make sure to keep an eye on that. As far as support and resistance, looking for some resistance to come into this market a little bit lower at the 107.70 area. And as far as support, look for some support to come into this market around 106.80. So definitely keep an eye on those levels. I am anticipating this pair to move lower. It's been kind of tracking sideways to some degree, but the bias is to the downside currently. Now let's take a look at the Euro USD pair. This pair has moved through its upper limit and then has pulled back. As far as the range, I'm expecting the range to be between 140.31, and we've seen that it's already hit that, went a little bit past it, and on the lower side looking for 138.39. So keep an eye on those levels. As far as support and resistance, look for some resistance if it does move higher to come into the market around 141.31. And of course it looks like it hit some resistance around the 1.4030 area as well. Now as far as support goes, look for some support to come into this market around 138.80, and that would be down a little bit lower here around this area, right around in here. This pair is moving down, although if you notice, it did. We had a doji this week, and then it closed up just barely, and then it moved down, and then today it just tanked, went down, and then pulled all the way back up to close even. So that's very interesting. Don't know if that's if we're going to see a reversal off of this, especially going into Friday, but it's definitely worth noting that could. That a reversal could be coming. Now looking at the pound, actually let's take a look at the weekly chart here real quick. Wasn't expecting to do this, but let's go ahead and take a look at this chart. It did move lower, but it didn't quite get as low as I thought yesterday. I said it would be a little bit lower around the 1.3850 area, and it made it down to about the 138.76 area. So it didn't quite make it down there. We may see that occur during this next session, especially with some U.S. data coming out. We have that, and I'll talk about that in depth a little bit later. But it definitely could go lower and go ahead and close that gap that I talked about from where we are currently to where we should hit some major support. So hopefully it will go ahead and get to that point. If you did sell short looking for that area, hopefully you got out, dropped down to a lower time frame and got out when it started to reverse on us. Now let's take a look at the pound. Let's zoom in a little bit here. We do have, if you notice, we had this pair move up during today's session. It closed up, and it's pretty much tracking sideways. I mean, we had the open here that gapped up, but I mean, if you draw a line, around the lows and the highs, you can pretty much, other than Monday session or Sunday into Monday session, it's pretty much tracking sideways at this point. The bias is to the downside though, so I am looking for this pair to move a little bit lower. I'm also looking for a range of 1.7621 on the high side, and it looks like it's come right up to that point. And on the lower side, I'm looking at 173.94 as far as the lower lower point on that. As far as support, looking pretty much at that same point at 1.7394, and as far as some resistance coming into the market, look for some resistance around the 176.73 area during this next session. Now, switching over to the Swiss, this pair moved higher today, did pull back, moved lower as well, but pulled back, closed a little bit higher. The trend is to the upside, the bias is to the upside. It's moving up. I'm looking for this next session to be between 114.50-52, and on the lower side looking for 113.07. As far as support and resistance, look for some resistance to come into this market around the 1,400 level. I think we'll see some at that point. And on the lower end, just a hair above our range at 113.16. Now we are going into Friday session. This past session we had the U.S. trade balance for July being released. It was worse than expected at negative 62.8 billion. It did affect the market to some degree, but not long term. Now the U.S. has their advanced retail sales for August being released tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. The consensus is that it's going to be up from negative 0.1%, and it's going to be higher at 0.1%. So a little bit of difference there. If the news comes out really strong for the U.S., we could see the euro move a little bit lower as well. This has to be way outside the consensus for it to move the currency all day, but it's definitely worth noting and possibly trading if you have a system that you can rely on to bring you consistent profits over the long term. So this about does it. This is Jason Fielder. Have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you later.